Hello and welcome to Gnostic Tarot Cards Module 1, the Foundation of Symbolism. If you did not hear on our YouTube channel, Gnostic Tarot Cards, there's a short introduction, but this is going to be to introduce the topic of tarot symbolism. Now, according to a lot of our tarotologists, tarot symbolism has been in effect a long time until it was syncretized into tarot. So first, I want to go ahead and take a look at some of the tarot symbolism that's available. And this has been brought largely in part by Christine Payne-Towler. She is somebody that I met during my esoteric studies. And she has done a great deal of work on the Gnostic portions and pretty much symbolism of the tarot deck. She has the Tarot of Holy Light, which is a pretty much 17th century Baume kind of Robert Flood alchemical Gnostical interpretation of the tarot symbolism. Now, one of the main things about Bishop Towler, because she's also a bishop in the Gnostic community, one of the main things about Bishop Towler is that she has a profound depth of understanding when it comes to the tarot. So rather than reinventing the wheel, we will depend highly upon her work, which you can find at tarotuniversity.com, or you can go ahead and Google Christine Payne-Towler, and you'll find her blog according to the things that she's been writing for 20 years. So I'm really happy to be able to introduce that. Let's go ahead and move along. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of the foundational symbolism in the tarot deck. The tarot has the minor arcana and the major arcana. Now, what we're looking at now is the astrological foundation behind the tarot. Astrology was practiced mainly in Egypt, and it was also practiced in Greece throughout the ancient mysteries. Astrology has been divided into a couple of different forms. Now, it's very important that we get this right off in the bat because astrology gets a bad rep. A lot of people see astrology and they think, oh, this is some kind of nebulous thing to where we don't really know a lot of what's going on. How can we ever be guided by these symbols? I've seen so many things in the newspaper about the horoscope and on and on and on. Now, this is what they call the astrology of symbols or signs. This was discussed by Marvin Meyer in the Handbook to Humanistic Astrology, which is a profound book. It talks about the initiatic impulses behind the astrological science, and it is a science. Now, it's mainly important to realize that we're not going to go and look at the sidereal positions of what's going on and then try to do this to Vedic astrology. Gnostic tarot cards is going off of the astrology of signs. And the reason why we're going through the astrology of signs is because each symbol, just like in the tarot, represents an archetype, a typos from a divine region that Plato called intelligibles. And in each one of these, we have an energy or a form of a vortex-like energy and fluctuation that is going to be given to us, but given to us in a profound way. See, through initiatic science and initiatic experience, the tarot, as it used for divination, also has this symbolism built into it. Now, Bishop Payne-Towler says that it is imperative that we realize that the tarot has 78 cards. The reason why she stresses the 78 cards is because we're getting in the entire astrological symbolism in those 78 cards. It's not a coincidence when two systems have a intermingling and intertwined this way, that they are in fact used that way. It's not just a coincidence. It's a synchronicity that we have the science of astrology, and now we're able to look into these cards that are showing to us on a day-to-day basis and see the divisions of astrology in them. So we're not really going to go into all of the symbolism for the astrological portions of tarot, but what we're wanting to do is get a firm foundation of what elements are contained within. And then in our next module, we'll go into the astrological and other foundations of symbolism and look a little bit more what Marvin Meyer in the Handbook to Humanistic Astrology talks about in relation to this particular form of science, they call it, but specifically symbolism. Now we're looking at here the alphabetical portion of the foundation in tarot symbolism. Now, alphabetical mysticism exists primarily in the Hebrew, the Greek, and the Arabic languages in antiquity. What that means is that in the Hebrew and the Greek, and particularly with the Arabic alphabets, they corresponded not only to a number, but they also had a symbol, and that symbol was called a letter. But it's important to realize that the alphabet had a metaphysical positioning behind it, and the tarot, as a set of, like Christine Payne-Taller says, as a set of flashcards, allows us to use this mysticism because it is built in and is inherent to the tarot deck. So part of Gnostic interpretation of the tarot is also seeing the metaphysical, alphabetical mysteries behind it. Now, since we are looking at Hebrew letters, we are going to be looking at the mystical aspects of the letters, how they can be used with each card, how each card is talking about a magical operation, how each card is talking about a principle, how there are keys. You can see right here in this chart that there is the Latinized version of the Hebrew. We also can do the Greek correspondences. In Barry's book, The Greek Kabbalah, there's a very, very good chart, and that also Christine Taller has used in her book, The Esoteric Tarot Revealed, which you can find on Amazon. But what has happened is that these letters have been given form similar to the seed ideas that are involved in the tarot. And so these letters have correspondences exactly and without fail to the actual tarot. Now, they've been divided into a few different sections throughout the years. So we have some that attribute the number 1 to a certain path and to a certain letter, and then others that attribute that to the same path and letter, but they don't do the right card. So part of this analysis and part of the work that Bishop Taller does is to identify what is exactly the correct format for us. And so through doing this work, we're obviously going to look into the alphabetical mysticism and how this alphabetical mysticism is correlated to the tarot through a symbol that the Hebrew and pre-Christian kind of Judaic mysticism schools used, which is the Tree of Life. So we're going to be looking at the Kabbalistic Tree of Life as an allegory to the metaphysical principles behind these letters and alphabetical numeric symbolism, and that is going to be coming in modules forthcoming. Now, we talked a little bit about the numerical aspects of the alphabetical mysticism, but behind all of these letters is a number. Now we have the 1 through 10, the 10-digit system, which is in fact Arabic. But the popularization of numerology was made by Pythagoras, and it was also brought through Grecian schools. Plato talks about the 1, the monad, the dyad, and so on and so forth. Now this is the tetractys. This is supposed to be the most perfect symbol of all numerology available. Now there's a book that Iamblichus has done. I can't remember the name, but it was about mysticism of numbers, which the entire module on numerical symbology and symbolism is pretty much going to rest upon. This arithmosophy, this mathematic philosophy, is going to be a core part of the tarot. The reason why is because each of the trumps is labeled with a number. And we also have that number repeating itself in different aspects of not only our microcosm in the world of mankind, and when I say man, I mean the theosophical manas, which is the thinker, the one who gives thought, not man as in a sex or a gender. We have the microcosm of man, and we also have the macrocosm of the universe and the cosmos and the known physical representation. So most of the mathematical mysticism and arithmosophy that goes into the tarot is directly derived from these ancient schools of pretty much Greek origin. They were the ones that got, according to Robert Gilbert of the Vesica Institute, the mathematical and geometrical mysteries when Egypt dispersed their gnosis or knowledge, and the Judaics got the time-based mysteries or the astrological symbolism. So this is going to be a large portion of the curriculum, and many modules will be dedicated to these particular foundations of symbolism. So next we have, according to the numerological foundation, the new elements that are specifically in the required deck of the Gnostic Tarot cards curriculum of Bishop Tauler's Tarot of the Holy Light. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. So Bishop Tauler has put a lot of energy and thought and a lot of the secret mysticism and core philosophy of the Western esoteric system has gone into this deck. So we're going to be talking about alchemy, and not as a crazy chemical science, although chemistry has been derived from alchemy, which comes from the Al, the land of Chem, which is the black or Egypt. So Egypt was the land of Chem, and this is going to be talking about work with the dark substance, and so that is going to be forthcoming in our alchemical work, which will rest a lot upon Baume and the interpolations of Baume through Saint Martin and De Pasquale of Martinism, and then going on to Flood and the Rosicrucian societies, and that is going to be something that we will discuss later. But Bishop Tauler has profoundly integrated alchemy and the Platonic solids and the geometry, the sacred geometry of the tarot, and a lot of the symbols in the Tarot of the Holy Light. So we won't need to go any further than that, and the sacred geometry principles will be discussed in a later module. Now also in the tarot we have the color symbolism. So each color that's being represented to us has a symbolism behind it, meaning that it represents something that we're not able to see and is our only way of seeing that which cannot be seen. This isn't weird language. This is just saying that within the tarot, just like the astrological, the alphabetical, the numerological, the alchemical, the geometrical mysteries, we also have mysteries that are regarding color. Regarding the particular influences behind those colors. And then we also have the words that these colors are linked up to. Say for instance we see a black bird. What kind of bird is this? So in Moni Sadhu's book Tarot, the Quintessence of Hermetic Occultism, is a great book, and we're going to be talking more about that in future modules. But just to talk about it really quickly, In the English language specifically, it derives from a lot of different words, and this science is called etymology. It's a way of deriving the root behind many spoken and written and used words and their changes. Well, just as we know that there is an etymology behind pretty much all of the language, there's also an occult etymology behind the words that are invoked when we see the tarot. Moni Sadhu talks about there's a vulgar meaning, which typically is printed on the card, and then there's an esoteric, initiatic, or secret meaning, which is the arcanum, and that is what we're going to be discussing when we get to the linguistic mysteries. So the tarot encompasses a large deal of symbolism, because, like Bishop Towler says, the tarot is meant to be a symbolic set of flashcards to the trained occultist or initiate, and that is what evokes these particular archetypes or intelligibles, as we discussed earlier, that Plato is going over. So this is definitely to come up in future modules. So now we have our foundation of symbolism. We have the astrological, we have the alphabetical, we have the numerological, the alchemical, the geometrical, the color, and the linguistic forms of symbolism behind the tarot. So what needs to be said here? You can see it written here. It says the entire tarot pack is a language used to synthesize astrological, alphabetical, and numerological study. This is of the utmost importance. It's because symbols, like Great Mason Albert Pike said, that they have such a subjective interpretation and that they cannot be concretely elucidated. It's because of this principle that the tarot is such a magnificent device for self-transformation. And this is exactly what we're looking at. Like DNA, even though they have all the same elements, when put in different forms, they give complex seed ideas and energy. And that's what we're looking at. With each one of the contemplations upon the tarot, we're experiencing an energetic current that goes into our body, or bodies, if you're of the Theosophical schools. It goes into our body, and then it does something. It moves, and it goes somewhere, and then when it goes somewhere, it's going from somewhere to another somewhere. And so just like DNA, as they've been able to see that it has a particular form and structure, the same with the symbolism. It has a particular form and structure, and also behind that form and structure is a very secret and esoteric tradition that this site, Gnostic Tarot Cards, is going to be completely covering. So in these modules, you're getting the best of the DNA of tarot, basically. And so we have to start small with the symbolism, but just like any system that you're learning, each particular module will build upon the knowledge learned into the next, where we get to higher and higher, or more deeper and deeper mysteries regarding these cards. So it's important to realize that even though it seems simple right now, it's not simple. This is a proven thing that's come from many great minds, and I happen to be a carrier of that tradition. But it was taught to me just like it's being taught now. It's being shared for the first time openly in this format. It's never been put into this kind of format before. So the particular ideas and energies that are being built in these forms of modules are extremely important to the future development of tarot and tarotology. Now next we have, I like this little symbol because we have all these musical notes in a cacophony. It's just this gigantic amount of chaos and extreme disorganization. Now, like music, often these notes, when looked at on a piece of paper, are indistinguishable from the other ones. They're just a bunch of dots and lines. And that isn't even an allegory. That is true. When you look at music, if you don't know what those lines are saying, it's just a bunch of dots and lines, and they repeat, and they have kind of a little bitty temporal spacing, but it's not really easy to understand what's being done. And it's certainly not easy to do a musical instrument or play any kind of musical instrument by not knowing the music itself. Well, to carry this into an analogy, just like there's multiple notes on a sheet of music, there's multiple cards in a deck of tarot. And they're indistinguishable to somebody who's not trained to be able to see what's on them, even overtly. So the modules are going to cover what is overtly available, and then whatever should be permitted to be told about some of its more hidden or esoteric meanings. We'll discuss that as well. But it's important to see that they're just like sheet of music, that these notes aren't indistinguishable, that they are intelligible, that we can read them and we can see what they're saying. And what they're saying to us is that behind this symbolism, there are profound energetic currents that are moving, that are in transition, that are in actuation, and that they are there. And the deck of tarots is there for our own edification. So it's completely necessary and important and valid at this time that we use something like the tarot in order to get knowledge about something that hasn't been presented to us in any other form. And I haven't found any other form except for the tarot that presents it in such a concrete, such a strong way that it can be shared with everybody. And also the images initiate themselves. So often the initiation of the image will happen just by an expansion of looking at the image, of knowing some of the core symbolism behind it, and then having it speak to you in ways that aren't being said, but that are being said. So that's not to double speak, that's just saying that we're going to see how they actually talk to us and what is being spoken. And often you'll find with a practice like this, just like music, you'll get better and better and better at practice, because what you've learned before builds on the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, until you're reaching such a level of development that you're flying way past you ever thought you could. So that is what the system does, is it builds upon the preceding step and pulls into another step. Initiation, so if you will. Now, as you'll see in the textbook, the Esoteric Tarot Revealed by Christine Towler, or Bishop Towler, if you want to use her formal name, you're going to see that there is a lecture given by Dr. Louis Kaiser, who is a scholar and is a biblical scholar and has done a lot of work on the ancient mysteries. And he says in his letter in that book about how it's possible that these images were used in the ancient mysteries. Now, they weren't in cards. They did not have a book of cards and they were like, these cards are the cards of the universe. They didn't do that. What they did, though, is as they took these initiates by the hand throughout the mystery system of their schools, they showed them images, they showed them iconography, and they later revealed to them through the experience what it was. This is the same format that has been taken through all the schools of antiquity. It happened in Greece, it happened in Samothrace, it happened in Egypt, of course. It happened in the Semitic traditions as well, the Jewish mysticism, the Hekaloth mysticism. So it's possible that the tarot in its seed form, none of the images that are showing on the cards, but the seeds of the images, meaning the energetic currents that were presented to all initiates through all mystery schools, were used. And that is a concrete statement that has been presented to us by Dr. Louis Kaiser. I would highly recommend that you go to the blog, and there's a link to that essay on the blog on gnostictarotcards.blogspot.com, and you'll see that from a scholarly point of view that these images were used at least to the 13th century and on. So we can concretely trace them back to at least the Cathari, and back then to the Gnostic schools, and of course in the Gnostic schools and the mysteries of Alexandria, like you're going to read in Bishop Towler's book, you're going to see that these forms were used. Even though they weren't used as concrete tarot images, they were used as what we call seed ideas. And these seed ideas were exactly what we're going to go ahead and look at in these cards. This is the whole purpose of the site, is to look at the seed ideas, to develop the seed ideas, to install the seed ideas, and to get them to start germinating, if you wish. Okay, moving along, just like we said on the last slide, the mystery schools were definitely influenced by the Egyptian, the Greek, the Dionysian, the Bacchic, and the Gnostic groups of Alexandria and Serapis. Now, these schools carried these seed ideas into later medieval schools, that this tradition also carried into the future, into later like Golden Dawn, Martinist, the Continental Europeans, and Eliphas Levi, which we're going to read about very soon. But it's important to know that there was a definite structure behind the mysteries. And this structure, as Dr. Kaiser on his Wisdom Seminars site talks about in Initiatic Mysteries of Antiquity, this structure was a form of initiation that was brought and that resulted in things that were done, things that were said, and things that were revealed. And in this core structure of the mysteries, profound experiences were had that usually culminated in a kind of vision, which let the person or initiand know that they were on their way. But this was brought through all the mystery schools into the Gnostic and Alexandrian and Serapian temples. This was also brought into the Cathari. This was brought into the Templars, the Freemason Lodge, and then later spin-off groups from all of that as well. So it's important to know that there was a structure behind it. And of course, in this site, we're going to talk about that structure. We're going to talk about the structure throughout the modules. We're going to talk about what did they see, what did they do, and what was revealed, and what was said in these profound situations, and what are they saying to us now, and what can we do with it, and what can be revealed from these profound images on these cards. So that is a lot of the mystery structure or symbolic structure that goes behind exactly what we're seeing on these cards. And that'll be traced back as well. And Christine Thaler has done that in the iconography of her Tarot of Holy Light, and also throughout the books that she offers on her site, tarotuniversity.com. But it's important to know that they derive from somewhere. These aren't just made up things, cartoons, so to speak. They have an actual derivation. So we're going to be looking at that further in other modules as well. And in this slide we have two spheres. We have one sphere of the natural, and then we also have the sphere beyond that, which we're seeing exactly in this sphere what is being shown. So, developing from these times, new schools were formed, but they still perpetuated the gnosis. And you'll see the gnosis is typed in all caps. Now, what was the gnosis? Well, if you translate the word gnosis, gnothi, from the Greek, it actually is knowledge. But we're not just talking about knowledge here, like you can read from books or you can learn on this site. We're talking about what Elaine Pagels calls in the Gnostic Gospels insight, and what has been followed upon by Gnostic Society Bishop Stephen Heller. He's talked about this being insight as well. And what kind of insight are we looking at? Now, it's right from here that we want to get clear about what kind of Gnosticism we're talking about. As Bishop Kaiser talks about in some of his seminars, on Wisdom Seminars, he says that there was two forms of gnosis that were being shared. One was a pessimistic, world-hating gnosis. That was kind of an insight that was experienced and saw that the world was bad and that we were locked in matter and that we need to get out of it. Now, he compares this to something similar as the Hinayana Buddhism. Then there was an optimistic gnosis that was talked about in the Mysteries of Trismegistus, the Hermetic, high Hermetic priesthood, where they talked about this world was something to embrace, that body was not separate from spirit, and that we were part of this whole, this all combined, all-inclusive whole. So this is the type of gnosis that he also correlates to Mahayana Buddhism. And this site, Gnostic Tarot Cards, is of the latter. We are a positive Gnostic tradition. This is not negative gnosis. This is not about a form of breaking off from our bodies and matter and our day-to-day lives. This is not about reclusiveness or hermit's kind of life where you just go into a cave and you don't go around anyone. This is about getting out into the life that exists beyond the personal sphere. And so we're going to be talking about this called the gnosis. And the gnosis is a way of understanding just who we are, like they say in the Valentinian equation, who we are, where we come from, where we're going, and all those questions, those existential questions that we ask ourselves. Who am I? The great Valentinians, they were the ones that perpetuated this way of inquiring inside and finding out what exactly is it that makes us tick and where are we going. So that is the type of gnosis we're sharing here. This is not a world-hating gnosis. This is a world-loving gnosis. And just as Yeshua says, that's been taught by Dr. Kaiser in his scholarly research into the Aramaic words of the Master Jesus, or Yeshua as it is in Hebrew, Aramaic. He says that the kingdom is within you. And that is what we're going to be looking at. See, right here we show somebody looking outside, but they're not outside of themselves. They're just looking in a different sphere. And these aren't mutually exclusive. They are inclusive, they are interconnecting, and they emanate within each other. And like some of the later mystery schools say, the Malkuth, the sovereign kingdom, is in the crown, is in the Keter. So we're going to be going through this in detail. But this is a positive gnosis. And that's why when you see this module on our YouTube channel, Gnostic Tarot Cards, this is important to see that this is a positive gnosis. And we are not talking about cutting off from the body, of shaming ourselves for having instinctual drives, and so on and so forth. So next we're going to see that there's two forms of tarot tradition that actually emerged from all these old schools. We call them the new schools. These are the new mystery traditions that a lot of the work stems from. Now these were the occultists of the continental or European tradition that are most aligned with the Gnostics and the Martinist school. Now this was by Saint Martin and Martinus de Pasquale that these systems developed from, but they were actually working on mysticism and the writings of Jacob Boehme. A lot of the Martinist work, in fact, Bishop Thaler argues that all of the Martinism is divinely inspired from Jacob Boehme. And so this being the earlier of the tarot traditions, we will trace back the works of Martinism back to Jacob Boehme with the aid of Bishop Thaler. The next group that we have is our Golden Dawn-esque. We call them Golden Dawn-esque because there were many subgroups that spun off of the late 1800s society called the Golden Dawn. We have Crowley, we have A. White, we have Yeats, we have Rigardi. We have so many people that have sprung off of Golden Dawn. All over the internet you're going to find several groups. I'm not going to mention their names due to copyright and not asking them for permission. But there's many discussions about Golden Dawn and its roots. Now, even though we may use some of Waite's imagery from his tarot by the Raider White pack, we're not really going to go into the Golden Dawn tradition. You can YouTube any of that and read about that. We are going to contain ourselves to the Continental or European tarot. And so the English schools, they've already developed their own. You can see a lot of their works, and we're going to be discussing who those were in a moment. So next we're going to see some of these Golden Dawn proponents. We have A.E. Waite, we have Dion Fortune, and we have Paul Foster Case. Now a little bit more about them and their backgrounds. Waite was a Mason. He came from high Mason lodges and grades, and so as the English tarotist, he developed the Rider-Waite pack, and that is the most popularly known pack of cards for the tarot. And this is an unnumbered pack, so you don't have to use the numbering that was later developed from Golden Dawn by Paul Case, but you can. And we are not going to follow the Golden Dawn, and the reason why is because our system derives from the earlier system. Now there's an entirely large controversy that I'm not really willing to go into about Waite and Levi or Alphonse Constant. See, Waite wanted to get some of the knowledge that Eliphas Levi talked about in his book Dogmas and Ritual, and the tarot was highly featured, almost the centerpiece of that entire book, series of lectures. So he wanted that information, and Constant, he would not let him into the French Masonic laws that he was privy of. So Bishop Towler talks about this in her book, The Esoteric Tarot Revealed, and I do believe that Kaiser also talks about this in the letter in there, More Than a Wicked Pack of Cards. But we also have Dion Fortune. Now Dion Fortune put together the mystical Kabbalah. That's what she's most known for. She actually had gone into lots and lots of esoteric writings. A lot of the stuff by Gareth Knight you're going to find is inspired by the work of Dion Fortune, which was her pen name. And then we have Paul Foster Case, who is the founder of Builders of the Adytum, and he spun off from the Golden Dawn-esque groups and went into a work of his own. Now before the Builders of the Adytum, he had some works that were profoundly inspired, that were called the Ageless Wisdom School. He had a kind of school in the U.S. that he called the Ageless Wisdom School, and those are very profound materials if you can get a hold of them. I think they even offer them on Amazon. But we're still not going to talk mainly about the Golden Dawn tradition. Our tradition is going to be of the Continentalists, as we're going to show. So next we have Alphonse Constant, we have Papus, as he was nicknamed, or Gerardin Casse, we have Moni Sadu, we have Valentin Tomberg, and we have Louis Claude de Saint Martin. These are the tarot tradition that we are going to follow. We have Louis Constant of the French Masonic tradition. We have Papus of the Martinist. Moni Sadu was a Martinist. And Tomberg wanted to write what Papus did not, in a mystical format, more like Saint Martin, because he did not want to get into the operative Masonic mystical illumination like schools. He wanted to talk about the hermetic abilities behind the tarot, but he was also a European tarotist. Even though he's been attributed to some of the English lodges, he's actually really in the foundation of this Continental Tarot. So we're going to work with his book, Meditations on Tarot, which is actually published by Anonymous, but it's not. It's by Valentin Tomberg. So we're going to work with that. Papus made the tarot for the Bohemian tarots. Then also we have Louis Constant. We have Alphonse Constant. His name was actually Eliphas Levi, his pen name, but he wrote the Dogma and Rituals. We have Moni Sadu, which we talked about, the tarot, and that was a hermetic quintessence. that course. And then we have Saint Martin, who was one of the primary figureheads of Martinism. Now these are where the tarot has most likely been distributed from, and where the English got it, because these were pretty much before the Golden Dawn, and these are some of the foundations behind them. So we're going to work with these authors and many, many more, but this is what we call the Continental Tarot Tradition. This is what Bishop Tauler talks about, and this is where we go back with the scholarship of Kaiser, and most of the mystery school work that we're going to be talking about in the symbolism, which we covered previously, is going to be covered in the books by these individuals. Now, at the time they were men, but this is not a male thing. The most enlightened tarot person we have in this time is Bishop Tauler, and she is a woman, of course. And so her work is profoundly influenced by these men. So this isn't to say that we're going in a male tradition. In fact, a lot of the work with the Pansophic builders that Kaiser has done on Wisdom Seminars or HomeTemple.org, you can see that we've broken off in co-masonry from the Masonic traditions altogether. The French lodges helped have co-masons, the female and male equal master masons, and in the ultramasonic degrees. So that is where we're going to go. We're not going to go into the English Masonic traditions and the Golden Dawn-esque spin-off groups. We're going to stay back in the continental time of the 1400s to the late 1700s. So that is going to be the foundation of our tarot exegesis, if you so say. Now, it's important to notice the chronological order comes basically from Saint Martin, and Saint Martin was highly inspired from Jacob Boehme, which you're going to learn about in this site. It's just Jacob Boehme wrote lots of books. He wrote lots and lots and lots of things. He was an artist, and he was a highly illuminated adept. So we don't have time to go into that on this particular module, but in later modules we will cover Jacob Boehme, and this work will be directly influenced and constructed by Bishop Tauler. So please come back to the channel to see more of that and the foundations that go back to Boehme. Next, we have a book that I really, really enjoy. It's the Tarot, a contemporary course of the quintessence of Hermetic occultism by Moni Sadhu. Now, Sadhu was a student of the Maharishi in India, and so he was an adept of both the Eastern and the Western mysteries, and he was a Martinist. So we're highly, highly going to depend upon this work. Go buy it. If you want to learn about tarot, you need to buy this book. It's only like $20 or $30. It's been republished. It's on Amazon. It's a very, very good book. In this book, he says, the ancient initiatory centers chose this third way for the transmission of the highest ideas, which were born in their minds. That is, they recorded them in symbols. And this is going to be kind of a conclusion to this module. We can discriminate between three types of symbolism. Now, these are not racial statements. When they talk about races, they're talking about realms. So just keep that in mind. And we're not talking about black people, red people, and white people. We're talking about certain kinds of energetic planes that these ideas come from. So the first one, the symbolism of colors, was a feature of the initiation of the black races. What they're saying here is that to the physical race, the physical realms, we have the colors that are derived from our entire visual perspective. Then we have the red races, the symbolism of geometrical figures and cards being the privilege of the red-skinned races. Even though they're saying red-skinned, it's not race. Trust me, these colors are used in high initiation in the Martinist tradition. Black, red, and white correspond to something in the Martinist initiatic current. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. But these are not people or groups of people or caste. This is realms of experience. And so the red skin races represent a higher form in the mental planes and the higher planes of the intuitional. Then we have the symbolism of numbers, which belongs to the white races. Again, not people, groups of people, skin tones, anything. These white races are those of the pure divine realm. Numbers are the most closest thing that we can get to when it comes to talking about divinity, because numbers behind them have archetypes. Plato's intelligibles, like we began with, we said that the tarot contains symbols. We gave all the forms of symbols. We talked about some of the people that worked with this. We talked about some of the initiatic currents that have gone into this. And this is the reason why I chose this particular quote out of the tarot textbook that Moni Sadhu wrote, is because these are the ideas that are behind the tarot that no one sees and that is freely available, that Bishop Tyler led me to, and that I'm leading everybody on the internet to. And we're going to go over this. But this has a lot of mysticism all in it. You could go buy this book if you don't want to hear these modules. You can go buy this book and get a lot out of it. So I'm definitely happy to be able to share these forms of gnosis with you. And I would highly recommend this book. And of course the site is going to represent these kinds of symbolical realms. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not about skin tone, race, caste, or groups of people, economic situations. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with actual subtle realms of experience and deeper layers of who we are, so to speak. Okay, well that concludes Module 1, the foundation of symbolism of Gnostic tarot cards. My name is Timothy Reader Wright. I was happy to be able to present this to you. Now, if you want to learn more, we're in the process of developing more and more tarot meditations that are a couple paragraphs long that you can view on GnosticTarotCards.com. Click on your favorite card and then you'll see the past posts on our blogger page. You can go to GnosticTarotCards.blogspot.com and see the blogger. We'd also like you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Gnostic Tarot Cards. It's important because these modules will be made free, available to everybody on the internet for the first month or a couple of weeks in the month of every month. So every time a module is released, as a YouTube subscriber, you'll not only be notified about it, but you'll have a direct link to see these modules as they come out. Because the tarot is for the public. That's why Bishop Tyler has put out the Tarot of the Holy Light and written in the Esoteric Tarot Revealed. That's why scholar Dr. Bishop Kaiser is behind this work. Now, you can also get to Gnostic Tarot Cards by Facebook. We have the Gnostic Tarot Cards site there, basically. You can go to the Western Mystery Tradition group, where you can find like-minded people that are discussing the foundations behind the Western Mystery Tradition, if you're not too interested in the tarot, although this is a pretty long module, so I'm not sure why you listen, but hey, good for informative purposes. Now, I do a Twitter draw of the cards pretty much every morning or every other morning or so. And I pull 3 or so cards and give them and their symbolism in the morning. So if you want to go with the daily card pull, go ahead and follow us on Twitter. We have network blogs if you want to get involved with network blogs, and we have Blogger. So I'm glad that you were able to stick through this. Hopefully it's been informative and helpful. And I look forward to presenting more of the Gnostic tradition of the Continental Tarotists on GnosticTarotCards.com. My name is Timothy Reader Wright, and thank you so much for listening.